My co-chair, Ty Reed, who created House Our Neighbors with me, made very clear to me and to the coalition, once we defeated the charter amendment and we're going to be on the offensive, that we were not going to do the traditional liberal thing where now we bring everyone in and everyone has an equal voice. Those folks did not show up to stop the sweeps. They're not going to be a core part of our organizing group. We will still work with them. We want to work with them. We want to move labor along. Labor can be, I'm being recorded. But there's a really important part of just having a spherical sort of inside group. So we have a steering committee in House Our Neighbors. Rebecca from Salem Neighborhood Greenways is part of that. But we also have different committees that people can be involved in. Unions and other groups can come and help with our comm strategy, our outreach strategy, our field strategy. But they're not going to be the core decision makers unless the entire group decides that that is the right thing to do. I just think also if the goal is the supreme point, you need to be able to have those conversations to tell someone if it's time for them to move out of that center.
Yeah, I think we're talking next about agitation and amplification, which are basically it's about how to sort of up the momentum of your campaign, whatever it is. And Tiffany's going to talk about agitation. Sometimes, though, you don't have an opponent. A lot of times, in our case, the opponent is the status quo, right? We don't have a villain as such. And we also are working often in a context where the decision makers are the people who we might be a little cranky with. You don't want to piss off the person you're trying to woo, right? So in our case, a lot of times, what we do, instead of agitating against an opponent, we amplify the stories of the people who are most affected. We take advantage of incidents that are in the news, events that are in the news, reports that are in the news about how many pedestrian deaths there are, that kind of thing. But we also often have to find our own ways to amplify the message, and usually that's going to be through personal stories, collecting the personal stories of the people who are most affected, the people who almost died, the people who lost a loved one, the people who have a hard time getting their kid to daycare in the morning because they can't cross a horrendous intersection. Telling stories that people can relate to is what I'm referring to here as amplification, which basically is saying, okay, we know what our issue is, we've got a good core of people, we need to move forward with this project, and we need to continue to bring more people in. Let's make sure they understand what's at stake. Let's tell the stories. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Tiffany's going to talk about agitation, which is something we don't have the luxury to do a lot of times in the street work, but it can be a lot of fun.
Yes, I can. The other thing just that we don't have as a bullet point but should be is both of these, agitating and amplification through the media. So we do have a pretty good media scene here in Seattle, but of course it could be better. But we have the South Seattle Emerald, we have the Stranger, and hope the Stranger continues to be the Stranger. And we have a lot of other little local Gloucester, Publicola, and whatnot, and different reporters that do pretty good work. So it's making sure that you're also using your media strategy in order to bring things to the media's attention. It's really nice when the media will copy and paste quotes from a press release and just put it in their news story. That does happen, and it's really great. But anyways, as for agitation, things in campaigns can stall out. And this is where, like Brie said, weaving in these stories and bringing that in front of lawmakers, getting folks with really unique stories, those are important. But for us at the initiative campaign, we knew that we thought we were already going to win, but it was really a wonderful moment when Amazon and Microsoft each dumped $100,000 against Prop 1A. That was a wonderful moment because it's like, okay, bingo, now, because all of our messaging is really positive and visionary, and this is the Seattle we want to make. That doesn't mean we're also not saying we're going to tax the wealthiest in order to make that happen. However, now we're given this golden opportunity to showcase to people that the alternative measure placed on the ballot by the council wasn't there because of good governance or whatever else. It was there because they want to protect the profit margin of the wealthiest in our city at our housing expense. So making really clear that Amazon doesn't want you to have social housing. we did that. We put in, we had the Seattle Times front page, we had the Stranger, and there was a time in the Stranger where like at the top and both sides we paid for that, we had the luxury of that money, but making clear to voters, if you were thinking about sitting out this election, just know that Amazon, and people in Seattle do not like Amazon. Just as an aside, I remember when we were buying these things really rapidly, these media ads in the Seattle Times, and we showed them what our image was. And it wasn't going to be calling out Microsoft, just less agitation opportunity. Amazon, yes. And so much so that one of the